I'm going to tell you the story of Steve when he has found the first time ever found the Enderman. The Enderman story! It's the Enderman story. This is the first time ever that Steve found an Enderman. Here, let me explain it a little more. Cameraman. So one day, Steve found an Enderman. Steve found the first time an Enderman. He was in his house, doing his thing. But Steve has found an Enderman. He didn't know what it was at first, but it looked weird. But when he found that Enderman, he looked very carefully. He didn't know what it was. It was scary and freaky. So he ran into his house before the Enderman can get him. He has roughly killed the Enderman and made it spawn somewhere else. But he didn't know. It went somewhere. He didn't know where it could be. But he couldn't know. He didn't know what it was. But he went over and saw him again. His mouth was quietly open. He didn't know. It was very scary and it looked very weird. And his mouth was roughly open. It was trying to get him from inside his house, but it could not go inside his house. So, what he did was die! He went into his inventory and got a diamond sword. He roughly wanted to kill him, like anyone else would want to do. And he got it from Eye of Ender. He didn't know what it was. He looked at it carefully more. He looked at it more and more and more and more and more and more and more. But he didn't know what it was and he couldn't understand it and what it would do. So what he did was he had dropped it and he accidentally dropped it and nothing happened. It didn't take him to an ender portal like his friends told him it would happen. But what happened is, but he didn't believe, but he wanted to believe, but didn't believe, but wanted to believe, but he didn't believe. He looked on top of his house, this house, and saw this. He saw a bunch of zombies. That's what he has saw. So that's the first time he has ever saw an Enderman in his life. And that's what happens. That's the first time he ever saw an Enderman. Story of the first time Steve has ever found an Enderman. So, let's go back to Steve when he was telling his story. Let's go back to Steve when he was telling his story of him. go back. No, not back. Let's go back. Steve, when he's telling the story. Okay, that is what happened when I first time found an Enderman. The first time. So, that's the first time I ever found an Enderman. The first time ever. 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 And it was the first time he's ever found an Enderman in his life. So, yeah, and the first time he ever has found an Enderman. First time ever found an Enderman. So, that was the first time he found an Enderman.